Hi, welcome to Courageous Journeys. I'm Peggy Oliveira. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I talk about self-compassion a lot because it is such an important part of any emotional healing, really, and just a part of feeling confident and living our lives from a place of freedom. But while I talk about the importance of self-compassion and even some practical applications of practicing self-compassion, and wrote a book about self-compassion, a journal to help you really cultivate a sense of self-compassion. But what does it really mean for us in a bigger picture? What does it look like for us when we have really cultivated a sense of self-compassion? How does it really make a difference in how we feel and experience our lives? So today I thought I would share with you a personal experience to help give you a sense of really what it does mean for our lives. Now, when you hear me talk about it most of the time, I'm talking about how to practice self-compassion in particular moments to help release shame, self-judgment, to begin to really or trust in our worthiness. But as we continue to practice self-compassion in really mindful and intentional ways, it becomes something that really becomes our natural state of being. And that's what healing is. In that process, it's all about practicing over time, again and again. And I know that that can feel frustrating when you find that you have to continue to practice that. But there are some things in life that we will continue to practice because that's just what it means to be alive. So it doesn't mean that we have failed in not mastering it, but there are just some things that we have to continue to practice, me included, in lots of different ways. But when it becomes our natural state, we've tipped the scale, so to speak, where shame or self-judgment might be our natural response or reaction to a lot of things in our lives. When we've practiced self-compassion over time, really intentionally and mindfully, and been able to do some of that emotional or core wounding healing, instead of responding naturally in these ways, we respond naturally with self-compassion. So here's an example. I actually shared this on social media back when it happened. And I intended to do a video here and just didn't do it. But I've been talking about it more, so wanted to share with you. So, like most people through 2020 and COVID, I got out of a lot of the habits that helped me feel good, helped me feel connected to my body, helped me feel less stressed. So I wasn't eating well at all, and I wasn't exercising. I work from home, and we weren't going out much, and not that I go out much, a whole lot anyway. So I was doing a lot of hanging around my house and sitting and working and not exercising, not eating well. And I actually enjoy exercise. I didn't used to, but this is one of the things with practice too. I enjoy exercise because it allows me to really connect with my body and what I am capable of. Doesn't mean I'm perfect at it, and I'm no exercise expert or anything like that, but connecting to what is possible for ourselves and our bodies is really quite powerful, as long as we don't get caught up in the idea of perfection, what our body looks like. So I went back to exercising this past summer when things began opening up again, and I felt a little bit safer in going out. And so I went to my Pilates studio that I had been going to, And up until March of 2020, when things started closing down, I had really gotten back into the practice of going several times a week. I was eating better. I had lost some weight. I was feeling really good. And then COVID happened and it obviously stopped. And it created stress, right? Because again, going back to that idea of what COVID created for so many people is a loss of control. And that contributed to my not feeling great. So went back in June and I knew without having gone, so it had been over a year without exercising, I knew that it was going to take me a while to get back into it. So going into it, I thought, okay, I need to be patient. I know that there are going to be some things that I was doing a year ago that I'm not going to be able to do now, and that's okay. So I really kind of talked myself through that a little bit naturally. I didn't have to think about doing it. I didn't have to journal through it. I just was aware enough, because it became part of my normal thing, to remind myself of those things. So as I go into the Pilates studio and I'm getting things set up and waiting for the class to start, like most people, I'm looking around, and comparison is somewhat natural. It's important to be aware of that and not get caught up in it. So I'm looking around, and some people are familiar to me and some people aren't. And of course, there are some people who COVID didn't have the same kind of impact on them. And then there were some people who kind of looked like they were a little bit more uncertain, like I did. And it's natural in a setting like that we compare ourselves. And we often judge ourselves in that comparison. And when you're actually working out, you might be looking around and comparing where you're at with other people, thinking we should be able to do the things that other people are doing, and then feeling bad if we're not. And I can get caught up in that too. But I had practiced that before I went in, recognizing that there are going to be things that I'm not able to do, and that's okay. Not feeling judgment about that, just recognizing that's okay. And that's how it starts. So as I'm going through the class, there were some things that I certainly felt more challenged in. There were people that were able to do it with much more ease than I could. And there were people that were struggling just as much as I was, if not more. So really seeing the variety, right? Not just focusing on the people who were able to do it better, but recognizing that there were people at all levels, of all ages. And that's an important natural thing that we begin to do as well. Because when we are in that place of judgment, we focus on, in comparison, we focus on the people or the ways that we will feel less than. And that's easy to do. But again, because of how much I had practiced previously, becoming aware of that, I didn't get caught up in that. So I did my own thing. And because I wasn't caught up in judgment, I was also recognizing having thoughts that were actually kind thoughts about where I was. Instead of focusing on the things that I couldn't do, I was naturally recognizing the things that I could do. Things that I was able to do in a way that surprised me, because I would have thought, given the lack of exercise and I think I gained 15 pounds over that period of time, recognizing that I was able to do things that I was a little surprised, that my body, because of the muscle memory and the experience that I had previously, that my body kind of naturally knew what to do, that I hadn't completely forgotten everything. And having those moments of awareness of that helped feel kind towards myself and not judge and compare to those other people in a way that left me feeling bad about myself. And that's really what cultivating a sense of self-compassion really is about. It's about doing it over time and it becoming something that we embody in our lives so that when we're in different situations, our default, our natural way of being in that moment becomes kindness towards ourselves. It becomes being able to be aware of everything that's happening around us without immediately just focusing on the things that could leave us feeling bad about who we are. I will fully acknowledge that I wished that I had tried to do a little bit more exercising, that I hadn't gained the weight. Like, that can certainly come up. But the difference is not going to that place of shame or judgment when it does. And again, I didn't have to really work at it. I didn't feel that judgment first and then talk myself through it. I just naturally didn't go to that place of judgment. Instead, I naturally went to that place of kindness towards myself, of being able to think about the things that I was able to do, given the year plus of not exercising. And that is what all of healing is ultimately about. It's going from what happens automatically and naturally, like that judgment, the fear, the doubt, the criticism, the shame, the unworthiness, all of that. Healing is about going from that being our natural way of showing up or thinking or feeling, responding, to naturally being gentle with ourselves, meeting ourselves with kindness and grace, having those thoughts before I even went of, ooh, what is this going to be like? And then feeling a sense of, well, whatever it is, it's okay. I know it's going to take me some time to get back to where I was, and that's okay. Without any judgment, without any fear, without any immediate comparison. And whether it is about self-compassion around what we can or can't do, or feeling safe enough to show up, right? Because there was a time that I probably just would not have gone back. I can feel really confident in saying that because remember I had lost weight up until March 20th. In fact, from November of 2019, I became very conscious and made a decision that I was going to eat better and I was going to get back into several days a week of exercising. So I had been very intentional about that. And then COVID. So it's easy for us to kind of feel deflated in moments like that, where we make a decision and we say, okay, I'm going to do this. And maybe we do it for a day or several months. And then something happens emotionally or globally that doesn't really allow us to continue to do that. And we can feel incredibly deflated and defeated in those moments. But the more that we heal, the more that we practice over time, the less impact that has. Again, it's about what happens more automatically and naturally over time. And because I was able to naturally kind of do those things and be aware of those things throughout that practice, not only was I able to feel more into feeling proud of myself for getting back there, for being able to do some things that I was a little surprised by, and feeling proud of that and feeling just relaxed in that. By the end of the Pilates session that day, as we laid on the reformer at the end of class doing our stretches, I was able to really feel into that whole experience, recognizing that I could have compared myself and I didn't. Feeling connected to my body and the strength and the ability for my body to know what to do. My emotional ability to connect to those moments of gratitude for my body instead of the judgment. So as I laid there at the end of the class, feeling my legs shake in straps as I was stretching, with one hand over my heart and one hand on my belly, began to feel emotional for the connection to my body, the pride that I felt, and the recognition of how different that is. Because that's ultimately what freedom is. If you've followed me for a while, you know that my healing program, my one-on-one work is called Journey to Freedom. Because that's what healing is. It's that freedom that we feel when we can just show up. It's the freedom of knowing that we're okay no matter what. It's the freedom of not getting caught up and consumed with everything going on around you in comparison and judgment. The lightness, the ease, the freedom. That's what healing is. And depending on where you are in your journey, you may feel like that's not attainable for you. And I get that, because until we've been able to experience it, it feels completely elusive. It feels like there's no way that you will ever be able to really get there. And the truth is that before I did my healing, I wouldn't have believed it either. I couldn't have, because my life was consumed with comparison and self-judgment and shame in every circumstance. I never would have been able to believe that I could be in that situation and feel the way that I did that day. Many other times and days as well, but that day really stood out to me because I was really consciously aware of how different it was. So while you may not be able to believe or trust that that is available to you and that you are capable of achieving that, while I can't guarantee it, because there are so many factors that play into it, including you not giving up on yourself, I know with everything in my being that when we create the space for ourselves to continue to practice, to have the support over time for the healing to internalize, for ourselves to be able to experience that on a cellular level, that sense of freedom, no matter what setting that is for you, that experience of freedom is available to you. And that's what it means to heal. It's what it means to live from a place of self-compassion, and why self-compassion is so incredibly important. So incredibly important for this process. And there are many ways that we can cultivate self-compassion in pretty much every moment of any day. And it's why I wrote Deeply Rooted. And this season, as I was talking to a friend, thinking about just how important and how powerful a practice of self-compassion can be. So sharing about Deeply Rooted again this Christmas, and I know I've shared it at different times and it's in the description below, but if self-compassion is something that you think would be helpful to you, and if you're watching this video, I can almost guarantee that it likely would be. consider putting Deeply Rooted on your Christmas list, your holiday list. Maybe if there's somebody in your life that you're thinking of a gift for, and they struggle with self-doubt or judgment or shame, or you know that there's emotional healing for them to do, maybe Deeply Rooted would be a great gift for them. It truly is. No matter how you practice self-compassion, it doesn't have to be deeply rooted. But self-compassion is so important. So, so important. And for anybody who has purchased Deeply Rooted or receives it as a gift, so anybody working through Deeply Rooted, I am going to be inviting again in 2022, in January, to a free workshop. I did this last year, or this year, I guess, early 2021. After publishing Deeply Rooted, I led a workshop on the practices, and it was such a beautiful experience for all those who attended. And I'm going to be doing the same thing in January 2022. So if you've purchased it previously, or if you purchase it between now and the workshop, I'm going to be sharing information about registering for that free workshop. So just make sure that you save your order number. If you're gifting it to somebody, they'll be able to register with that order number. So all the details for Deeply Rooted are in the description below. And I would love to connect with you inside of that workshop. So thank you so much for watching. And if you have purchased Deeply Rooted and you found it helpful, I would truly appreciate you leaving a review wherever you've purchased it. It really does make a difference for people to feel like maybe it could be helpful for them too. And that is kind of the purpose of writing it, is to help people, whether they follow me or not, but just to have a resource to help them build that sense of self-compassion. So thank you for watching. If you're new to this channel, please make sure you subscribe and click the little bell for notifications. And if you liked this video, if you thought it was helpful, please give it a thumbs up and maybe even consider sharing it with somebody who might benefit. Thanks so much for watching. I'll look forward to seeing you next time.